All right, folks. Big Paul here today with the crew. We're back. Todd had us have an epic episode last week. That one was one for the ages. Oh, God.
We need a
All
delay like Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl halftime. I have a mouth malfunction.
All right, guys. I got to run my promos and all this stuff. the disclaimer to say you shouldn't do stupid things. So here we go.
Or listen to me.
Or listen to Todd. Yeah, don't listen to Todd.
Nothing.
Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. All right, what's up, folks? Dr. Todd disappeared. I think we scared him away.
He's gone.
We had to take him out back behind the woodshed.
Nothing remains but the battle axes.
Nothing remains but the battle axes.
He is an old battle axe.
For our non-PC episode last week.
Did I just hear that there's a woman without legs?
No.
No, we were just saying you're one of a kind.
Oh man, yeah. Last week I got so many DMs last week about the episode. Like, that was epic. Don't change a thing.
I did too. I think Kevin Frizzard actually watches this. Do you know who Kevin Frizzard is? He was on, like, you know how Jared Dines does the greatest shred collab every year? And the world's top guitar players. Yeah. Kevin Frizzard was on the most recent one.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had somebody
top 100 world's best guitar player watches this show.
That's hilarious. Yeah, we had some celebrity people watching from accounts they probably shouldn't have been watching from.
Like the Puppy Love. Was that Hobby Lobby?
Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby was watching.
I liked my favorite comment about Todd from last week's broadcast was somebody said that Todd looks to me like what I imagine medieval executioner would look like. I don't know why that tickled me. And then like there's like a just like your face was like frozen and you look grim and like that in that still frame.
A girl said to me, she goes, "Why do you look so ugly on your podcast?" I was like, "That's what my face looks like." I was like, "I'll make sure to turn off my ring light and wear a hat." Like,
shit. I feel your pain, man. I got a comment or two about the shoulder hair.
I saw that.
Making me insecure. I shaved it once, goddammit, but it came back with a vengeance. It's like
you need a weed whacker for that.
That was the best.
Fucking, like, I was smooth for a while. It's like my shoulder hair is like fucking Obi-Wan. I cut it down, and it became more powerful than I ever could imagine.
It's like Yoda's head. But you said, what is the least effective dose of shoulder hair?
That's what it was.
That was the best one.
It made me laugh.
And someone else was like, "Oh yeah, least effective dose is probably 5 milligrams." You're like, "I meant minimum effective."
I shouldn't play in the mud with them, but I can't help myself. That's now you know why I go by Chewbacca.
I think Colin might be the only person that has me beat in the body hair department. I post my progress pics up, and some dude was like, 15% body fat, 15% body hair.
That's funny.
I'm like, yeah, that's great.
It's kind of the blessing of being a ginger is like mine's translucent, so you can never really see it. It's like, fuck.
Everybody in my family's ginger. I got the blonde hair. I don't know what happened to me.
Only my beard is red. Everything else is like this Brillo pad material.
So what about this DEA thing with the telemedicine stuff? I like. There's like a lot of mixed message about it. My attorney Rick Collins says he doesn't think it's that big of a deal, but it seems like everybody's freaking out about it.
Well, I mean, I work as an HRT doc, And so it sounds really bad, but the person who owns the clinic, the practice that I work at, isn't worried about it. I talked to another person who owns a clinic who doesn't think it's going to go through. And then I think personally, it's not going to be enforced for testosterone because it wasn't intended for testosterone. It's intended for opiates and Xanax, that they probably forgot that testosterone is a Schedule 3 and a Schedule 3 medication because it doesn't belong on the list. It doesn't fit any of the criteria for Schedule 3.
Right.
So there's going to be an exception. It may not be right away. Either it won't be enforced or they'll make an exception, or they might decriminalize testosterone the way they did with marijuana, whereas testosterone doesn't belong on the list. They might leave this law in place, but they might just remove testosterone from the list. And out of curiosity, since when does the DEA make laws? They're not Congress. They don't have the right to do this in the first place. It's unconstitutional.
Well, they don't have the best track record either. They've paid employees privately in huge corporations to get access to like data, and instead of getting warrants and stuff. I mean, the DEA is pretty sketchy in my opinion. I think I'm not hugely concerned about it either. And like Todd, I work with a HRT clinic. I don't think it's going to be like the end of the world. I think it's something that's slowly encroaching on our rights. That's the one thing that scares me most. Is like maybe this is the first step forward kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we always have to battle for our rights. It's crazy, like to me that testosterone's even scheduled. It's a hormone that occurs naturally in your body.
Yeah,
they don't have birth control scheduled. There's no estrogen or progesterone. Women's hormones aren't scheduled. And you know what's funny is if you were a woman who wanted to become a man, it's totally okay to get testosterone.
Right.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that double standard. A woman wants to become a man, no problem. A man wants to become the best version of himself. Stop right there.
Right. Or stop slowly slipping into femininity. That like as you get older, if you become more and more feminine, you want to stay at the same level of masculinity you're currently at.
Absolutely. I don't want to wake up one day and start being like, I think I'm going to get into bird watching, You
know what? The politically correct term for bitch tits is man boobs or moobies. And even though that it might be politically correct, I don't want to be moobies.
I think like bigger picture, man, it's kind of scary because it's like, what is a male on high testosterone? Like this really driven, sort of like advanced intellectual person in a way. And it's like when you take that away, you're like, yeah, you're feminine, like you're bringing the power away from men in the society, and that's like big picture for me, maybe, but it is scary. Like I don't like anything. Like whenever I hear a 3-letter agency encroaching on anything we do, it's like I don't like that because it's like no other country is really like you can go to Canada or Thailand or wherever the hell and really get whatever you need over the counter, and it's like we're the only place, which is weird too because we have like you can get DHEA. And you can get it at any dose you want, which that's a precursor to testosterone. So it's interesting.
Well, it'd be funny because all those countries don't have guns.
Yeah. So
it's like I guess if I had to surrender my gun and so let me have more testosterone, I've got axes and swords.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm for body sovereignty. I mean, you should have the ability to choose what you put in your own body. That should be up to you and nobody else. I just don't like any barrier to. I don't see how you can call a free country if you don't have the choice over what you put in your body. That seems odd to me. Seems really odd to me. There's freedom of speech, but you can't take testosterone. That just blows me away.
Well, I mean, if the DEA was to stop attacking Americans who are trying to take medication and was to go after the cartels, they'd actually be busy.
Yeah, it just blows me away. Other bodybuilding news I had noted up. I don't know if you this is not bodybuilding, but this is powerlifting. But the whole trans powerlifting thing that's been going on. I think it was which powerlifting federation it was got overturned by the I think it was in Minnesota. It was the state court up there that
USAPL.
That they had to allow trans athletes in the USPA, and it was in Canada. This was hilarious, man. This dude up in Canada, he there was a trans athlete that set the Canadian record for powerlifting, and this dude's like, well, Abby Silverberg,
no,
He's like, "Yep, I identify as a female. I'm gonna sign up for this female powerlifting competition," and he blew away the record set by the trans athlete previously. It was hilarious.
Well, it's just kind of funny. It's like you're gonna have to compete with. You want to be a winner, but you can't win because you suck. So you compete against girls against their permission and take all their trophies from them and win. So some bigger, stronger dude just shows up and obliterates your records and takes your trans victory away. But what I don't understand is why don't you just have a trans division?
Yeah, that's what the answer is.
I think that's the only answer. Yeah, because I mean, I think everybody should be able to compete. Male, female, in between, whatever. You should be able to compete. But like at the same time, I can hold like two thoughts in my head that are disparate, and it's not fair. It's just not fair for people who have a clear advantage to be competing against people who don't have that same advantage. Like,
you can call yourself whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that you should get to compete against that group of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this dude, I mean, he was just making a point. He just came in and blew it away just to make a point. It was to show how ridiculous the rules are. But yeah, there should be a I don't know what you want to call it, a gender neutral division or whatever.
Well, I mean, let's break this all down here. So what's going to be stronger? A man wearing a dress, whether or not he's had his penis removed, or a woman taking a bunch of gear for a year or two? I would think that a man is still going to be stronger than a woman, no matter how much gear she takes.
Yeah,
more than likely.
So therefore, in a USAPL, which is a drug-free league, it's completely ridiculous that not only are you letting men compete against women, you're insisting that women can't even use testosterone when the guy has two testicles that are making testosterone constantly in his body. And if it was up to the DEA would come along and castrate everyone so that you can't have testosterone without having a doctor's visit every 30 days. But
Tommy says, "I'm transitioning myself. I have big plans to dominate the women's sports locally, of course."
Yeah. It's so valuable. I don't know. It's weird to me. I don't understand where the thought process is with that. I feel it's just so, and like I think it's the Olympics, and Todd, you might know this more, but they have like a certain threshold that a woman can be at until she's considered like not a woman at threshold tolerance of testosterone. Oh. And it's like pretty freaking high. Like
it's probably 80 picograms.
Yeah, it's high for a female.
80 nanograms or something.
And it's weird to me. I don't know. I think it's obviously I think the answer is doing a separate category for trans, but then you run into the issue of, like you said, the female using androgens is still going to be so much weaker than.
I think that, so the easiest way to do this is obviously the logical thing is what's never going to be done. So we could just, in its dream universe where people had brains, this is how it would be done, right? That regardless of what you identify at, when it comes to sports, the gender you were born with is the one you compete as, no matter what, right? Yeah. And then, but if we have to compromise, men who want to dress like women and say that they're women have their own division.
Yeah, I think there should be like a male to female transition division and a female to male transition division.
But I don't even think that the female to male transition division have taken less drugs than the normal competitive women.
Probably.
Well,
that's
their choice, though. That's the risk that they'll have to run.
But I guess my point is that when a woman's born a woman and she's transitioning into men, she should still be able to compete against other women. But there should be no drug testing for the women.
Man, it's a tough nut to crack. There's no way about it.
If you're a drug-free woman, then a woman who transitioned to a man could not compete in a drug-free women's division.
So we're gonna have to have 18 divisions.
Well, there's already too many because there's aged every 5 years is an age bracket in powerlifting, and then every 5 kilograms is a weight bracket in powerlifting. Then there's raw, sort of raw, almost raw, kind of raw, Then there's 1-ply, 2-ply, 3-ply, 4-ply. So no matter what, everyone's a world champion because there's so many divisions. All you got to do is pick the one division no one's actually competing in, and you can win at that.
Yeah, it's so weird. Tattered said the female powerlifting has become a joke after that. It had. I mean, that was the point. The guy was trying to make a mockery of it and show how ridiculous it was.
Which is stupid because females are the more interesting people at the powerlifting meet because there's not that many of them, and you want to encourage girls to do something constructive with their time. Right. And powerlifting is a low barrier entry sport. You basically have to learn how to do 3 exercises, and it's very easy for girls to win a national championship because there's so few girls that do it. So if they were to apply themselves and try, they'd actually be successful. So it's cool when girls take up a sport and actually stick to it. And so powerlifting is a good thing. And especially USPPL is the high school league. That's like the one that is in high schools. It's the competitive thing for kids. So this is the worst division for this to happen to. I could see this happening to the APF and no one would care. But like for it to happen to USAPL is a travesty.
Yeah.
It's like letting trans people into Girl Scouts.
It's something's got to change. All right, moving on, man. Did you guys see Larry Wheels? He said he's going to compete in Classic.
He said that last year, didn't he?
Yeah. He's talking about it again.
Didn't he go natural?
Supposedly, but
supposedly.
I thought he was like at TRT levels or something. He said, I don't think he went full natural.
Well, so is Flex Lewis. Apparently, he's natural, and dude's fucking. But those biceps, man, it looks so funky to me. I just can't.
Well, that one's got to be torn, right?
He tore one of them. Yeah. I thought he tore both of them.
I think he tore both of them.
You know what's funny? This goes to my whole thing. Like being stronger doesn't necessarily equal being bigger. I mean, because the dude is strong as fuck.
Yeah,
insane.
But look, his legs are small.
Well, that's with most powerlifters. Matt Kroc is a good example of this. He's a world champion, and his weakest body part when he competed in the Michigan was his legs. He got second, which is great. But I mean, considering that he is the strongest man on the planet in multiple divisions and multiple world strongest man and powerlifting and set a whole bunch of world records.
I mean, Stan Efferding is also a good example.
His legs are small.
They're small, and he's so strong, like so strong.
It's because his volume grows legs, not weight. I'm the best example of that.
No, I agree completely. I think like you build it in the 20 rep leg presses, like that shit can light you up.
I know we've added more volume to our legs and we don't do any squats anymore. My legs are as big as they've ever been.
Yeah.
I switched to belt squat. I'm loving it.
I do like that one. There's like there's a brand of one that I hate and I can't remember. It's like the Pit Shark or something like that.
That's the most popular one.
Is it? I hate it.
I'm using the Panada one, and I do.
That's the one I like. That is a beautiful.
We just got Panada machines at our gym.
Oh,
I never used them before. Awesome. It's like
they're so
fucking
smooth.
Rolls Royce. Oh my
god, that's what Bonex. Now they built a Northville powerhouse, which is 40 minutes south of me, and it's all Panada. The whole thing. Awesome. They've got like a chest supported bent row, where you like lean over like you're doing a bent row, but there's just a pad for you to put your chest up to.
Yeah, nice.
They've got converging arm double Smith. So that's two different Smith machines that basically converge. Awesome. It's just like, I don't know why I haven't made the trip down there to do it. It's just because I don't want to drive 40 minutes every time I go to the gym. But it's like, I almost want to get an apartment in Northville just so I can train there.
Yeah, I think he needs to get on a real cycle and stop training a lot of upper body and like do legs like 3 times a week. And
well, if he's doing Classic, he looks great for Classic.
I just from the back is what I think is going to be like.
Well, we haven't seen his back.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't. Really
Do we have any pictures of his back?
I don't know. He didn't have a whole lot up.
He's so famous. I don't think he's doing it because he wants to be successful. No. I think he's doing it just because I have something to do. I mean, he'll say everything I do to win, and it's just sure you do. But what my point is, most people aren't going to change their whole body around just to do a hobby.
Yeah, he doesn't even have that great of a back, to be honest with you.
He has a great back. He just doesn't have a back that matches his strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my back is bigger.
But you're 280 pounds. How much is he? Like 230?
I don't know what he weighs.
We see it, and it's not always the case. Like we see it at the gym often. There's a crew of powerlifters who are in there like every day, and some of these guys are so unassuming. You would never think that they move the weight that they do just by looking at them.
There's this one kid that's super strong at squats. You know who I'm talking about, Colin?
Yeah.
He's not that
blonde
big.
Guy.
Yeah.
And then there's the Samoan guy who yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's people like Dan Griggs, for example. He's wonderful power lifter, and he's big as shit.
Well, he just set the world record for a deadlift for a raw deadlift.
Yeah.
No, it was 1,080 pounds, something like that.
Yeah, I had
without straps.
He was at our gym a few times, and it's a big boy.
Yeah, he's got some giant ass hamstrings.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was talking about this. Is another thing that was in the bodybuilding news. We'll get to some questions here in a second. This and I don't know why it's just hitting now, but there was a bunch of pictures. This was months ago, but Jay Cutler, what he looks like now. I don't know if you saw some of this stuff, but he was posing.
I mean, I expected him to look like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's old too. I think he just posted one recently that looks.
Yeah, these were in the fall.
Who's he posing next to? That guy's got a really good.
David Lade, I believe, or Lex Little. Sorry, Lex Little.
Yeah, I couldn't find the recent pics, but they were even better.
Not the one in the red, the one in the black.
Yeah, that's Lex Little.
Okay, that's impressive. Especially because he puts a height comparison to Jay. Like Jay's 5'9".
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him. He seemed a little taller than that. He was taller than I expected.
There was like the Olympia channel, like I can't remember what their program over there is called. They had with Tarek Lungundi and all those other guys, but they were saying that like they're gonna have a surprise at the Masters Olympia confirmed, and they said it rhymes with Butler. So I was like, okay, well that's probably. And I'm just like, well, if the age is 40 for Masters Olympia, like.
Well, they just lowered it. They lowered it to 40. It was 45. They couldn't get anyone in. They lower it to 40 so that Phil Heath will jump in. Right. And then Jay jumps in. It's like, dude, could you imagine if Kai came back?
That would be wild.
Kai, really Jay, cool. And Phil at the
That'd be cool.
Olympia. That's more. That's bigger than the actual Olympia.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
And it's in Romania because I remember I was gonna fill out the forms. I was like, there's no way I can win, and I'm not 45. Then they dropped it to 40. And I was like,
I feel like 40 is still a really competitive age, and Jay is. I don't know. Jay looks great. Don't get me wrong. He's
Sean's 40.
Yeah.
Andrew Jack's 37.
Rami's got to be 40.
Rami's got to be almost 40. Yeah. Hadi's coming up on 40.
Yeah, I just feel like lowering it was kind of for how small the prize is, I feel like that was a bad idea because
it should be 45 and up for men.
Yeah.
I understand why it's 40 and up for women and men's physique.
Yeah.
But for 212 classic and bodybuilding men, it should be 45.
Yeah.
Well, supposedly Jay says he only takes TRT now. I don't know if I believe him or not, but that's what it may be.
Up until this point, like there's no reason to only take TRT when you're intending on competing and you've been for 10 years.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you got 40-year-olds coming in who are still blasting, like your temptation to, okay, well, I'm just going to go up 100 milligrams here and there, and you're 48, 49, 50, and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to have to match what they're doing,
I'm 49 and still blasting.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm 43. I mean, I'm not buying into this whole age shit. People are still stuck with this old concept of age. I mean, the fact that C-Bum went and got the stem cells and his biceps back to good as new. Rami went and got stem cells. He's completely different in just 3 months. And then not only are people, men at least, aging way slower than they've ever aged before. You could just watch Tulsa King to see that. The fact that we're going to be regenerating tissue like pretty fast, like maybe not in time for me to be 100%, but like Kolton, I bet you could probably look close to what you look like now for the next 60, 70 years.
That would be awesome.
With enough money. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're concerned, like, you don't think like using androgens kind of burns the candle at both ends, so to speak, like causes so much cell proliferation that
I could imagine it. I can imagine a lot of things. I could imagine an airplane's going to land on my house like in Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it true. I'd rather not imagine negative things because that brings negative outcome. I'd rather think positively and have positive outcome, like Nick Walker.
Yeah.
Like me and Nick Walker turned pro the same day. He had a positive mental attitude. I had a negative mental attitude, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now you could say, well, he was in much better shape than you and he's genetically superior to you. And it's like, yeah, you could make arguments that I diet faster and have a smaller waist. Like you could make an argument either way, but in the end, he had the will to achieve and the confidence to believe in himself. And that's why Nick Walker's Nick Walker.
So you think it's more of like a perceptual shift that keeps you young?
Well, I wouldn't even say that. It's just I'm not going to imagine that I'm doomed and I shouldn't try.
Yeah.
I'm not going to quit because other people are like, you're old, you should quit.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't make any sense to me. Paul is an example of what happens when you don't quit. You do everything right.
So do you go by your own objective opinion? Like because like, I guess when you look at your body, it's subjective. So when do you like know, okay, this is enough?
I don't think Kamal Al-Gharni should retire just because of the way he looked at the Arnold. I think that his posing routine was not flattering based off of, you know, kneeling down, putting your butt towards the crowd when you weren't shredded was not the best course of action.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have a shredded glutes and you're going to moon the crowd for a full minute while they find your music, or don't and face the crowd once you realize you're not shredded. But just because he shows up to one show not shredded, I'm not gonna be like, oh, he's 43. He should just go behind the shed and have his wife shoot him in the head. No, I think
Kamal's in his 50s, isn't he?
He's 53, I think, or 51, whatever. The point is, I think Kamal just did too many shows, and so his body was worn out. Sergio looked worse at the last Arnold, and he's looking amazing now, and he's a fraction of his age. So just because you look bad at one show doesn't make it your age. That maybe Kamal's quads are shrinking. Everyone's like, oh, your vastus lateralis gets smaller as you get older. It's like, that doesn't make any sense because Paul's legs are bigger. You know, like my legs hit their all-time biggest this last off season. It's people may not be training their quads as hard because their lower back or their knees hurt, and they're not being creative with ways that actually work around that. They're just like, this is how I grew them. This is how I know how to train. Now I can't train like this anymore. So I'm going to phase off of it and just accept it.
I've seen that a lot. I've seen a lot of people fall into that trap. They're unwilling to adapt to different modes of training as their body changes and they get older, and they're like, well, I guess I can't train anymore. And like, nah, dude. Like just fucking
train like a bitch and like it. Yeah, you do high reps.
Train like a bitch and like it.
Yeah. That father time.
I'm adding that one to the list. I love it.
Yeah, so it's
your idea of what bitch training is, though, Todd. Like I remember when Paul and I used to do your fucking training for Ragnarok program. Like I wanted to kill myself, man. I like dreaded going to the gym on Freya leg day. Like
the Freya leg day was brutal.
Yeah, I'd finish one of your fucking leg workouts. Like he had this one in particular that was just like so high volume and so nasty. Like
it was so brutal. I used to do that I used to do an extra Freya legs every week. That was, oh my god! I would have a normal cycling of like the normal progression, but I threw in an extra Freya legs every Saturday.
I would do that fucking workout, and I would leave the gym like I felt like it was that scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when they did the ether, you know.
How many sets was it?
So it was like it wasn't just the sets, it wasn't just the reps, it was the pairing. So there was
remember the supersets of the leg extensions with the squats.
It was the superset leg extension, then Smith squats, 2020. 4 of them. So it's right out that's station 2. One was glute kickback superset with plyo lunges. So you jump up and down and do a lunge, land, jump, lunge, 20 each leg. Then you do 20 each leg kickbacks. So that's 320 reps. And then there was like lying leg curl and Romanian deadlifts.
That's nasty.
Was that the one with the 60 rep leg press? Where it was,
45. No, it was 60. So you did low for 20 for quads, And then there was high and wide for hamstrings.
Yes.
And
adductors, and
then
narrow.
in close where your feet pigeon, so you work just a glute.
And that was after doing all the other shit.
That was the part.
That was the
where,
finisher.
Yeah, like I just wanted to go home.
It
was so brutal.
20 reps. 48 sets of 20
made me
reps.
want to throw up. Like I remember like thinking to myself, like, because like Paul did the set, and then I was like, fuck, I gotta do it then. And I remember doing it, thinking to myself, like, I hate you, Paul. I hate you so much for fucking making it through that last set.
And I would count the reps for you. I'd make sure you weren't shorting any reps.
Yeah, he would.
You were hoping I wasn't counting.
He took no pleasure in that. I just want you to know.
I'm like, one more. You got 3 more, Colin. Come on, man. We're not cutting this one short.
Dude, I remember this one time. This girl was like talking shit, and she's like, "Oh, I'll fuck up any bikini workout. I'm a power lifter." She puked 3 times. She puked 3 times that workout.
That's funny.
I was like, "Come on, power lifter. What's the problem?" You know, and it's just like and then I'm like, "Eat it. Eat your puke. You're not getting more food." And she'd like eat her own puke. And then like she'd go back and do more. And I was like, dude, girls will work out. They will eat their own puke. Guys have like a certain threshold where they won't do something undignified. They'll go and they'll spit it out into a trash can. But
Colin, remember that dude that wanted to work out with us, and we put him through that workout?
Yep.
And we never saw him again. He never.
I never saw him at the gym again.
You started him on
changed gyms after that.
Yeah, we started him on frail legs.
Yeah, you always start someone on legs to break them. You make him never up front for several sessions. First session's legs.
Yeah, he was insistent. I was like,
he literally never came back to the gym after that. We never saw him again.
That's how bad it was. He had to switch gyms. He's like, I can never show my face there again.
We've eaten through some people. You're like the lone survivor, Colin.
Yeah.
You're the last man standing, man.
Last of us.
I've never.
I'm not tough. I'm just too dumb to quit.
I don't feel like I worked that hard, but I guess people just.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that was my original point. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Kolton.
No, that's the thing. Is like people think they work out hard, and then like you gain this new knowledge when you train with someone else, and like then it's the next level and the next level, and people. Like they think they train hard. I rarely see people actually train to failure in the gym. Like when they think they are, you know.
It's funny because so many people are concerned about overtraining.
Yeah, you know who the hardest trainer is at our gym? It's also the biggest dude.
Yeah, it's the biggest dude.
It's big Brandon.
Or the biggest lady. Yeah, we have a we have a lady, one lady in particular. You know, what's her name? Caitlin,
she's a pro. She's gonna be a Miss Olympia.
Yeah,
someday.
She really is. Like you're gonna see her on the big stage.
She just got her pro card, man. She 2 shows. She wasn't even like
yeah.
I gotta show you.
She's there. Like when she's there, she'll be there when I show up. So she's was there before me. And she'll be there when I'm leaving. Jesus. Still training with the same intensity that she was training with when I got there. She is absolute monster.
Check this back out, man.
Yeah,
she just got her
that
pro.
First picture is insane.
Yeah, she's a beast.
Oh, and she's like retained her femininity really well.
There's one picture of her face this is the one that jumped out at me. The one in the top middle.
Look at her.
Her back. She'll do weighted pull-ups for like a fucking hour, dude. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, she's harder than anybody at the gym, man. It's well, I don't know, her and Brandon.
Christ.
Jesus.
She was super skinny too. That was the funny thing. Like they had people had to talk her into doing bodybuilding. She was like, I don't know. And then she went out and got her pro card in 2 shows.
Yeah, it's so funny to me, like how like everyone is insecure. We're all insecure.
Oh yeah.
Like even someone like that, like who objectively, you look at her and you're just like, you're insecure. But we all are.
And that is a muscle.
Here's her beginning. That's where she started off.
Wow, those glutes came up quite a bit.
Yeah.
You think? Fuck. Yeah, I need to get her on sometime. She's
for sure.
Why don't you pick one of the pictures of her face, because like that's the really astonishing part. There's lots of girls who can take gear and look hot, and not look hot, look big, but she looks like a supermodel.
You can tell she hasn't abused. Like she's definitely kept thinking, or maybe she's just because like who's the Andre Shaw? I think she's the Miss Olympia right now.
Yeah,
her face is like she's a pretty square jaw, but for the most part, like I've met her in person at the Olympia, and she's like very feminine still. It's very strange.
She's actually really nice.
Yeah, very feminine. It's some people have that. Like I found that like this is maybe racist, I don't know, but like Asian and African American bodybuilders have like, they don't degenerate like white females do in a way.
Well, you mean age-wise, or you mean that they also don't get androgen?
They don't get like those secondary male characteristics that most do.
They age slower and they get away with gear better.
Yeah.
Here's a picture for you. This is nuts.
I don't know if that's racist. It's racial, but it's not racist because you said something positive. But then again, I'm sure there's plenty of people who are looking for a fight who are going to find something wrong with anything.
But I mean, it's also just factual. Like you can see this stuff in real time. So it's like,
check this out where she started off at.
I've found that runners end up being some of the best bodybuilders because I think they have like that mental toughness.
Oh, interesting. They have the willpower to push themselves through a leg day.
Wrestlers too. Wrestlers are another one that make good bodybuilders.
Sure. They can make weight.
I've also found hardcore World of Warcraft players excellent, excellent bodybuilders. They can really they know how to grind, man.
They know how to just sit in their own feces and not worry about it.
They understand how to gain XP at a steady rate.
And they know how to gain XP. It's like, I've been waving baskets for 22 hours.
I'm just saying, you show me grinding multiple maximum level characters in World of Warcraft. I'll show you someone who you put a dumbbell in their hand, they'll surprise you.
They're like, all they got to do is reverse projection, where it's like, I'm going to treat my body like it's a character, and then they take it seriously.
I mean, that's just it, man.
That's what's so funny is I play role-playing games with people who've been playing for something like 20 years. They've had the same character for 15 years. It's like, imagine if you put as much time and energy into yourself as you did into your character.
Or even a modicum. I mean, like, like when someone's like really into fucking, like their fantasy life, it's like, it really doesn't take that much, like applying the same, passion and fervor that you apply to like, min-maxing your fucking D&D character, like to your flesh avatar in life. Like you're gonna be really, really shocked and amazed. Like I was, like,
I think you told me
like
one
I'm
time.
in great shape now, but like compared to where I was, like goddamn, like
it's night and day difference, Colin. You look great.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I think you were the one that told me, Todd, that life is the ultimate RPG.
Yeah. That's another Toddism right there.
Dude, I feel like I need to meet this Todd because
we remember all of your sage wisdom. And
what's funny is after I'm dead, you're gonna program an AI, and then hopefully you'll give him a better face than this one. The girl can make fun of. It's like, why is the Crypt Keeper on your podcast? But it's like you design an AI and he's just going to be like the next Confucius, and it'll be, people will remember me being this wise sage individual that's so valuable, and luckily they will not have access to these and find out what I actually thought. And
I feel like the ultimate. What do you think? Yeah, we'll do some questions. Before we do that, though, before we answer questions, going into this, the ultimate words of wisdom from Todd Lee: some people are too stupid to do steroids, ladies and gentlemen. I have to remind everybody of that every week. So we're just
the people always forget this very key detail. By definition, 49% of people have below average intelligence. That means for every person watching this that doesn't think that applies to them, there's someone who's watching this that doesn't think that applies to them, and it does. It so does.
I think we call that cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, it's like everyone thinks they're smart. That's the scariest thing about our culture.
Oh yeah.
All right, Colin, what questions we got now that we established that some people are too stupid to take steroids?
All right, let's see here. It's not PED related, but I just thought it was an interesting question.
Justice for our album cover.
Metallica.
Who do you think would be harder to train with, Branch, Warren, or Dorian Yates? I don't know.
Branch, because you never know it's going to end and it's 100 degrees.
Yeah, I've seen him train, and it's not like the workouts aren't intelligent, but they're just fucking brutal. Like it's true. Like he uses brute force to get
at least
through his
you
workouts.
know that if you train with Dorian, you're gonna be better tomorrow, and he's not gonna overwork you to the point where you possibly get hurt. That Dorian is one of the most thought out and strong-willed people. Branch Warren is probably the most strong-willed, hardest worker. Most of his workouts did not make any sense to me. That doesn't mean that they didn't work. He obviously got second in the Olympia, but
I think
he never got injured the way Dorian did training either.
Yeah.
That's also why I think training is probably the least important aspect of diet and PEDs.
He's like people need to look at him as the exception, not the standard too. I think that's like a big variance. Like people need to look at professional bodybuilders as exceptions. And so like what they do doesn't really apply to, they're the top 1% of the 1%. So like all of us, it's a lot different.
I just rewatched Blood and Guts 2 days ago, and I picked up so much more from it now that I'm familiar with the modern optimized training. And there's so much nuances that Dorian was doing that fits the optimized training modality that I didn't pick up the first 1,000 times I saw that video.
I heard him recently talking about how he was rethinking how the barbell exercises and dumbbell exercises are not that important, that he would mostly use machines if he had things to do over again.
Correct. And they didn't have that many machines. He had to design them.
Yeah.
They didn't have the DY row by hammer strength until he made the DY row by hammer strength. So he was stuck with that underhand barbell row that tore his bicep.
Yeah, I mean, he was, man, it's amazing to think about that. He prepped himself for those Olympias with no coach. That's just insane to think about.
Well, if you put all the time and effort up front into researching your body and you know exactly what works for you, and you have a nobody had a systemized, standardized, scientific approach to any of it before Dorian. That's what people overlook, is that he's the one who kept track of monitoring volume, measuring results, reducing volume in order to accommodate for fatigue. He's the one who mastered using step count by walking his dog for his cardio. He's the one who came up with keeping track of protein, carbs, fat, and calories. I don't think anyone did that before him. They just I have this many chicken breasts and this much rice. Like they didn't actually use the metric system.
Yeah, I saw like he kept logbooks of everything, and he would go back and look at his logbooks.
Yeah,
for 10 years.
Yeah,
he was his own.
I hope those end up in a museum. I hope those.
Well, you can get them on Amazon.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool. I'm definitely going
to do only 84 through like 91, I think. Once it really shit really hit the fan, it wasn't. And he was using, I mean, it's just he made it a scientific process. And once you treat yourself like an experiment and you've already buttoned it down to where you've got reproducibility of every experiment, that the coach thing became superfluous. In fact, the coach would just set him back because he'd have to educate the coach and then prove to his coach what he was trying to communicate.
Yeah. He created his own textbook for himself, like the textbook of Dorian Yates.
I think what makes him great is most people don't have that level of self-awareness and objectivity to be able to assess themselves honestly and achieve those sort of results.
On no education. He grew up in a slaughterhouse or jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even graduate high school.
No, fucking wild.
Which is crazy to me. I'll never forget going back to the Branch Warren thing, that video of him talking to the leg press, I think it was a leg press. He was like, "I'm going to rape you, motherfucker. I'm going to fucking take you." I was like, that's Branch Warren. That's another point I wanted to make, is that a lot of people forget is like comparing yourself to someone with elite genetics seems like a waste of time. It's like trying to model your basketball game after Shaquille O'Neal. You don't have to be that good if you're 7 feet tall. You really don't. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal made an entire career not being able to shoot a fucking free throw.
I've watched a Miami Heat game in person, and I'm not a basketball game. I just was there. It is one of the most pathetic, sad, and boring things in my life. It was like all these people that are huge but look tiny circling around this guy like worshipers of a god, as he just barely dribbles the ball across the court and just sticks it in the net. It wasn't even playing the game. It was just like some freak show. It's the complete opposite of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, Ronnie Coleman probably could have done anything and been Mr. Olympia.
Right. Which he kind of did. Like, I mean, he used whatever sauces he wanted.
Casey Masterpiece.
Yeah. Casey Masterpiece on every meal.
Yeah.
My favorite is when he showed his diet to the camera.
Oh my God.
And it was like meal 1, chicken, potato. Meal 2, 3 scoops of BSN bullshit protein. Meal 3, chicken, potato. Meal 4, 3 scoops. It's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Meals, can you alternate them? Why are you reading this? Why is it on your fridge? Like, are you do you have your kids' names on your forearm? Like, you're gonna look at your it's like Maribeth. It's like, can you go get my coffee? It's like,
what was it recently? He said that he ate at Denny's every day.
Yeah.
For his entire career.
Yes.
Yeah, he spent like over 100 grand.
Yeah,
spent over 100 grand at Denny's.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, this dude graduated with an accounting degree. There's no way he can't keep track of that every meal is chicken and rice and chicken and potato, or it's 3 scoops of this bullshit protein. I assume that he doesn't actually eat that diet. It was because BSM paid for the video, probably, so that he printed up a bullshit diet and pretended to be reading from the diet, and then he probably just ate different meals than that.
Then again, he did also say, what did he on the Joe Rogan podcast? Like, I'm negative
0.3% body fat.
Yeah, so I mean, like, how much? Like, I don't know.
I did laugh at that. I was like, I don't know about that one, man.
Yeah, I was like, and Joe asked him, like, what do you take? Well, just the basic stuff, like B-ball and tests. It's like, well, I don't know if he knew what he was doing. He probably just listened to people and was like, okay, that's why.
Yeah, it sounded like he didn't know what drugs he took.
Yeah, it's just like honey and not, but they gave him the shit he needed, and they're just like, all right. And he's like, okay.
I heard Chad Nichols say that he had to build his diets out with the assumption that he was going to dump KC Masterpiece on everything.
Right. He accounted for the barbecue sauce. He's like, what do you think? We're not doing it by the metric system? He's like, of course I accounted for the calories in the barbecue sauce.
That's awesome.
Like, for real. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he was offended that people assumed that he didn't account for the barbecue sauce. And I'm just thinking, like, how do you account for the barbecue sauce if you're not measuring it?
Oh my God.
I guess you just ballpark it.
Then that's not accounting. That's the opposite of what the word accounting is. Accounting is you put the goddamn bottle of KC Masterpiece on the scale, you squirt out 78 grams, and that's 3 servings, and it's 39 grams of sugar or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the consensus is that Branch Warren would be harder to train with than Dorian.
No, because I think his wife Trish cooked all his food. Oh,
I was going back to
that. I thought you meant diet. No, you tell Trish what his diet is, and then she makes his food. He just eats it. That Cherie did that for Phil Heath. A lot of the guys, they don't do their own meal prep. Yeah. Their coach talks to their wife, and their wife cooks their food.
I have a couple clients that way that their wife makes all their food. I'm like, damn, I do
where
everything myself.
Magic dick.
I guess, man. I don't
magic wallet.
Nobody's cooking shit for me.
No. I don't think you could pay someone enough to cook your food right. They'd have to actually like you.
As long as they're not poisoning it.
A lot of people pay meal prep services and they suck. They get everything.
They're awful.
You can't pay someone to do their job. You can't have to emotionally manipulate them or be valuable to them.
Unfortunately, there's just not. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've seen the portion sizes in those meal prep services. I don't think they're accurately measuring shit out. No, just some dude in the kitchen throwing it in there.
Right.
You might as well just go to Chipotle.
Yep.
All right.
What do we got next, Colin?
What do you think would be hard? Oh, we already did this one.
Yeah, sorry.
Justice for All. Tomas, what's your favorite track off Justice for All? What's your favorite track off Justice for All, Paul?
And Justice for All. That is their best album. Blackened.
That's my favorite too off that album.
Got Ben James here. Any thoughts on low dose Primo masked with test for cruising?
Well, if you're not cruising, if you're
it's not a cruise.
Your
own cycle.
As a cruise, like I'm on 100 milligrams a week for me, and I know that's lower for most people, but it's like I can't really fit Primo or Mast in there. So
I did 125 on my last cruise, and I cruised for 10 weeks, and I felt like good. I felt good for the first like 6 weeks of it, and then I felt like ass. Like in the next 4 weeks, I think the EQ was wearing off.
Yeah,
I'm just like I think 125 was too low for me. I've always cruised on around 200, 250.
I usually do people at 20 to 30 milligrams of test a day.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I go by the math that I've seen. I think it was Broderick Chavez. I think it was 5
milligram per kilogram or something.
I think it was 1 milligram per pound is what I saw for sports TRT. I don't remember. I apologize to Broderick if I'm slaughtering this, but that's what I've been telling people.
He is a formula guy.
I think it was 3 milligrams per kilogram is what he said.
Yeah,
so I used to be a part of his membership site.
Yeah, so that's 2.2 kilos on a pound. So yeah, it's actually a little more than that. I don't recall, but yeah, that's not a. So Ben, that's not a cruise. That's a cycle.
Good.
So does anyone know why Leo Longevity and his little crew disliked Broderick? I've never had anything out of Broderick's mouth that was received wrong.
So Broderick is just very conventional and conservative. So his opinions are like, why the fuck would you take an ARB? Like, you're gonna make your dick soft and you're just a weak pussy. Like that's
ARB.
Yeah.
But telmisartan increases nitric oxide, not
right. That's why people don't like him, is because he says very controversial statement. Like, he doesn't. When people go on his lives and they ask him a question, he'll get mad and he'll just say some shit. And it's like,
he's threatened because he doesn't know the answer, and then he asks like a dick.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I think he's very smart. I don't want to get him wrong, but I've seen.
No, I enjoy his content. I think he's a very sharp guy.
He has a lot of great opinions that I think are extremely, extremely valuable. But like, for example, one opinion of his is he's like, DHTs won't downregulate your natural pituitary function, but we have like plenty of clinical literature to show even quicker downregulation compared to just testosterone. And so there's like some things he says that are highly controversial, but also he's been around for fucking ever. So
let me paraphrase this. He's saying if you take Masteron 900 milligrams, your natural test will not go down 1%. Or is that how people are interpreting it? What he means is there's way less suppression to the point of it being irrelevant from using a reasonable amount of DHT.
Right, exactly. So his thought process is like a person's first cycle could be Anavar, for example, because that being a DHT, you're not going to get the estrogenic negative feedback to the pituitary,
right?
Just the DHT. And he thinks that won't be such a accountable downregulation by the end of 10, 12 weeks.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, but we have this data that supports the other way.
He just doesn't speak with the nuance. He makes a generalized statement, and then people take it way too extreme. They extrapolate it to the most extreme opposite of what he means. Because I know that Israel said that exact same thing, and I know that Israel's anabolic mentor, I believe, is Chavez.
Yeah.
So therefore, I happen to agree that if someone's afraid of needles and they don't want to make an irreparable change, then they could just do Anavar. And that would have, even if it was a 20 to 30% suppression of testosterone, you're more than making up for it with the 20 milligrams a day of Anavar, because that's more than your body makes testosterone a day anyway.
Yeah, I think what happens with Broderick, I've seen on his live cast, he doesn't suffer fools well. It's like I've already explained this. I don't need to explain it to you again.
And he's very specific about how questions are asked, which I appreciate. Like, if a question is asked in a stupid way, he won't answer. He'll just freak out. So,
well, I guess the point is, if you want people like you, having composure is an important element.
Yeah.
That being unstable is unattractive, and that people, it's like if I say something controversial and they can't argue with what I said, they'll make fun of my spelling because they can't really prove me wrong, but they can
or your shoulder hair,
credit me as a source. Yeah. And then once people lose respect for me, they won't listen to what I say. So you hear that. That's how I know someone doesn't know what the fuck I just said, and they're threatened, is that they attack my spelling.
That's true. It's hard not to do that. Like when you read research papers and there's a typo, I'm like, ooh, it's kind of weird. I don't know.
Well, that's different. That's a published work, right? That's professional that got submitted to a journal and it got published. You have an entire team of English people going over your papers. We're talking about just typing on a forum or in a comment section. If you type WS for was rather than WAS, then that's just a keystroke error.
I mean, people were brutal if you misspeak about anything. Oh my God. I recently did a video on pro bodybuilding cycles, and I think I said 8 units of GH, and I didn't specify per day. Everybody was like, you didn't, don't, people were, you said week, and I'm like, no,
what kind of fucking idiot would take 8 units?
If you don't know, you fall into the classification of you're too stupid to be on steroids. So
yeah, like people make mistakes. Lane Norton makes mistakes all the time.
Yeah,
humans make mistakes. I'll be honest with you. I will sometimes make a post and intentionally misspell a word just because I know it's going to increase engagement among the people who are so OCD they can't help themselves. Actually,
yeah, Colin and I work with somebody who's the grammar cop. So fucking annoying.
Always fun to have someone like that around.
I'm like, to serve and correct. Grammar cop. Yeah, I think one thing though, I see a lot of the, and I don't want to talk bad about other coaches or whatever, but there seems to be these infallible gurus online where these guys that claim that they know everything and everybody else doesn't know shit.
Yeah,
they're the proprietor of everything, and I'm the only evidence-based.
That's just coach. Victor. That's just Victor. Butt sore over Victor. It is extrapolated to other people that are similar to Victor.
There's some other ones out there. I mean,
it's where
I don't know everything. None of us know everything. We're constantly learning and evolving. Anybody who claims that they know everything and everybody else is wrong, that should be an automatic red flag.
I knew everything when I was 18. And then it slowly decreased until around 40. I realized I didn't know shit.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
What did they say? The more you know, the less you knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I like Kolton so much. I'm just like, I'm going to just sponge up all this smart kid has to say before his life crushes his soul and he gives up. Because he really believes in everything right now and he's so enthusiastic and he's going to keep reading. And then we'll learn from him. And then he's just going to get married and divorced. He's going to take his kids away. And he's going to start drinking. He's going to do porn. And then he's going to pop back up again with like a torn bicep. And he's going to be like, I don't know what the fuck to do. What do you think? And then we're going to talk.
I think talking to stupid people will do that to you too. Long enough. I'm really starting to learn why like some people get jaded and start acting like assholes, because you should see some of the stupid DMs I get all day long, man. I'm just like, oh my God, man.
Yeah. Luckily I'm attracting more smart men than before.
I get some really smart people. I don't want to slam everybody.
I think you field me the smartest of them. Like the few questions that are over your head, you send to me. So I've just got this Jedi Council of questions in my inbox now, rather than just like my dick's on fire.
Yeah.
Anything for that? I'm like, my fire extinguisher? Like what?
Like people ask me serious questions, and sometimes like, man, I don't want to be the guy to tell you what to. Like my heart hurts. That's a problem. Go to the fucking doctor. Like, don't ask some random dude on Instagram. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
See, the buck stops with me though. Is that I have to help them.
That's another thing that blows me away. Like with bodybuilding coaching, we talked about this before, Kolton. I'll get guys come to me and like, yeah, I feel like I'm dying, man. What should I do? I'm like, go to the fucking doctor.
Yeah,
not a doctor. Don't wait for me.
I know a lot of shit, but I'm not gonna be responsible for what the fuck. Who knows what you're like. One guy asked a question on my story the other day, like, my piss is bubbly. I'm like, look, man, there could be 800 different things. Go to the fucking doctor. Like, I don't know what your blood work is. I don't know who you are. I don't like, though.
I always get stuck with those, and I always have to deal with them because I'm like, now we've got a problem, and I'm the only person. What are they going to do? They're going to go to an urgent care, and then like an urgent care doesn't know that you test estrogen. Like they're going to say, oh, your kidneys are dying. You have to go to a nephrologist. It's going to take them 8 months to get a nephrology appointment. Until then, they're going to say, fuck it. They're going to snort coke. They're going to blow through their life savings. And then they find out, oh, it's nothing. They just ruin their life. I might as well get in front of it right away. I'm like, well, it could be nephrotic syndrome. We have to do a urinalysis and check for protein in the urine and bacteria. And it's like, if that's negative, then just ignore it. And I know that Kolton's like, oh, there could be so many other things.
No, I mean, I in part I agree with you, because that is true. Like, our medical system is shit, and most of the time I am much more, and all of us are probably way over the curve of what a practitioner could be, even, or like a nurse practitioner. So I agree with you, but I don't think like my thing is I could tell someone what to do or like give them advice, but I am not a doctor and I don't want to hold the incredulous ability to say, hey, this is what you do. Don't listen to anyone else, you know? So I'm more along the lines of like, all right, listen, like this could be the problem, but go to a doctor because I'm not responsible for your life.
And in most of these situations, it's like, look, I'm never going to be 100% sure you're okay, but I can be 99% sure you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, look, I think it's fine. I don't think it's a problem. If you want, go see a specialist in that particular organ system. But if it was me, I would just say, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't have protein in your urine and you don't have sugar in your urine, you don't have bacteria in your urine, and your cystatin C is good and your creatinine is not abnormal, there's no indication that you got kidney damage aside from the bubbles in your urine. It could be a number of things. That's just not really a health problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that recently. I had bubbles in my urine, and I went through and got all the tests. It ended up being I had a UTI, is what it was.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just piss a lot. Like you piss so hard into the toilet, you like it's could be 800 different fucking things. So I'm like, I don't know, dude. No. Yeah,
my cystatin C and creatinine, all that was in line.
No.
All right, Colin, what do we got next?
We got Jacob Widener here. Hi, Big Paul. Do you think that insulin pre and post workout should be used every day or just on high days?
I would say just on high days, but
yeah, I usually I run Atlantis every day because I have issues, but I use the rapid acting Humalog on just high days. I want to give myself a break from pounding insulin because there is a negative feedback loop with insulin. So as in increasing insulin resistance.
Yeah.
So
and
we have to be mindful of that.
I think Todd brought this up once, but you only have a certain capacity to store glycogen too. So if you're just pounding like a super physiological amount of glycogen storage, you're going to end up with like intramuscular triglycerides and insulin resistance proliferating. And yeah, it's just not good to.
Plus the carbs are going to get pounded into the fat cells too.
Yeah.
It's not like insulin drives carbs into muscle exclusively. It drives it into carbs and fat.
Yeah.
And into muscle and fat.
And even visceral fat as well. So, yeah.
And that shit's horrible for your waistline. Because if your goal is to get bigger just to be bigger, that's one thing. Most of these people are getting bigger to compete. So blowing out your waist or stretching out your skin is suboptimal.
Yeah. What do you guys do with I had a recent client I'm working with that had a really high amount of visceral fat. Like you could see his abs. It's crazy, but he's got a high amount of visceral fat. I mean, the only thing I can think to do is just put him on a really hard diet and try to get it off.
I do. So like what data we have in mice, at least after about 48 hours, you start partitioning a lot of that adipose. So I would do like a 48-hour fast and
I've heard fasting is good for visceral fat.
High dose TUDCA, like 1.5 grams, high dose choline. And then, even in some cases, there's a lot of different stuff you can use, honestly, but I would just think the fast is probably the best way to go. Like don't stop using growth hormone, stop using any sort of stimulant or fat loss agent. I would just literally fast, just raw dog it, and do that multiple times, like twice a month for 4 months, and see what happens.
That's really cool.
So okay, I'm in prep. I'm 8 days in, 10 days in. I have exactly 1.5 pounds of visceral fat because I had a very long off season. I wasn't planning on going keto or fasting. I do the TUDCA and the choline. I expect that this visceral fat will melt off because in the past, my visceral fat always melted off during preps as usual. Do I have any reason to suspect that this prep will be different than other preps just because it was a 12-month or 15-month off season version, 15-month off season versus an 8-month off season?
Maybe.
So you're saying it may require the more drastic measures of fasting?
If your goal is to have like the sucked in waste as much as you can, I mean, but sometimes that's not the goal. Like, there's a balance.
So for example, in the past, I was able, when I got my body fat down low enough, like 5%, I had like a 25.75 inch waist.
Wow.
but I was probably up over 36, 37 inches in the off season.
Yeah.
Right now I was like 36, 37 inches in the off season. So I would suspect I'll get down to 26 inches without doing those drastic measures, despite having a 1.5. I had never measured my visceral fat with a DEXA mid-off season before. This is the first time I've ever done that. Now I feel like this is the biggest my waist has ever been, but I was also in the longest off season, so it went the longest time without being able to do vacuums. So my transverse abdominals would also have the weakest resting tone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I didn't want to resort to doing fasting because I would expect that you'll lose more muscle with fasting.
For sure.
For fasting.
Yeah. For
so
sure.
Losing muscle is not a big priority of mine because it's so hard to put it on for me.
Right. Yeah.
I had a fair amount of visceral fat, and I actually had a fatty strip on my liver. And after I did that first contest prep where I just got absolutely emaciated, it all went away. The fatty strip, everything.
And you didn't have to fast, but you also were probably zero carb.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing like, man, Justin had me down to no fat and no carb at the end. It was just like,
Which
protein.
Is virtually fasting, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's not quite the same thing, but relative to your caloric needs, you're so much greater deficit than zero compared to the general population, right? A normal person who eats 2,500 calories and eats zero is negative 2,500 calories a day. Whereas if you're eating 500 calories and you're normally at 4,000, you're negative 3,500 calories a day. So even though you're at a positive caloric intake, you're still pulling in less relative to your baseline.
And that was my thought process for helping somebody with visceral fat, is maybe to put them on a very low fat, low carb diet, but keep some
keto diet
protein.
Supposed to work as good as the fasting, or is that not the case, Kolton?
I don't know. I know that saturated fat has some ability to proliferate fatty liver disease. I'm not clear on the mechanism behind that. So I know that when people do keto, they usually increase a consumption of saturated fat.
I'm thinking about constructive keto, not brain.
Yeah, like let's say
you're just taking the carbs out and putting in MCT oil.
Yeah, like if you're doing Mediterranean keto, if that was even a thing, I think that would probably be effective. Yeah,
I would just call it not brain dead keto. Like you're not living off of vodka and bacon, like, but you're eating the same you're eating the same exact fucking foods. You just take out all the starches.
Yeah.
So paleo keto, I guess. Yeah.
All right, Colin, what do we got next?
We got one here from Kyle Buck. What is the amount of training volume per body part, I guess, that you would recommend, for example, back chest?
So individual, but
right.
You sort of have to suss it out. I mean, that's been my, Dr. Mike Israetel talks about it all the time, but your minimum effective volume and your maximum recoverable volume. We've played around with it in our routines, and I found sort of my minimum effective volume per body part per week is somewhere around 10 sets per body part per week. That seems to be maintenance level for me, and it depends on the body part. Like I can push up, arms or something, I could probably push up to 20, 25 sets per week. Whereas hamstrings, I can't do that much for hamstrings and recover. So I would say just, if I was going to generalize, it's somewhere between 15 to 25 sets per week per body part. It just depends on the body part.
Yeah, Galpin says 10 to 20. John Jewett says 10 to 20. Israetel has a list that depends on the actual specific body part.
Yeah, he has one. If you go to the Renaissance Periodization website, he actually has a list for each body part that goes through and talks about.
For the most part, it's 4 to 8 for the minimum effective volume. But it gets more complicated because if your sets are awesome, you're going to get more fucked up and you're going to need less of them.
Right.
So an intermediate needs more volume than a beginner, but an advanced person typically needs less volume than
That's a really good point.
Because they're way better at gauging how close they are to failure. They have to take it to failure. And every rep is fucking perfect. Like, for instance, there's this girl at the gym who works very hard, but she simply doesn't have the coordination and nervous system control to do good reps. So she'll grind out the last couple reps and she's taking every set to failure, but she's using way more of her body than her tricep when she's trying to do tricep extensions.
Yeah, that's huge. It takes years to develop that coordination to like where someone's doing a dumbbell press, they're not like this trying to push the weight up, but like they're able to slowly, like Nick Walker's a great example of how to do a dumbbell press because he's doing 200s like just like a fucking rock, whereas other people are like doing this crazy shit, moving their abs and expanding and contracting their rib cage, and it's like that does require amount of time. So it, like effective volume can lower over time for sure. Like I would say after 6 years of training, you really develop like that good fucking neuromuscular control and can dominate. But I think before that, yeah, you need a lot more volume just because you're engaged.
We were talking about it, Colin, you and I were talking about it with back. Like it seems like back is one of the hardest body parts people have to connect with.
Yeah.
And it took you years. I know like you were having a hard time growing your back, and then we finally got that figured out.
I mean, like I think a lot of people are like me, you know, like if you're less active when you're younger, like I wasn't using my back muscles, you know, sitting in a computer chair playing video games. And when we first got in the gym, like I had no idea how to engage my lats or, you know, my rhomboids, anything when we were doing these different movements. And like Kolton said, it literally took years. And I had like these eureka moments here and there at the gym. I was like, wait a minute, I think I get it. I'm going to pull with this muscle instead of like try to move the weights with my hands.
Those are the best moments. It's like you unlocked a new ability. You're like,
exactly. Again, it's like back to like my fucking video game analogy. Like it's really it's like that, you know, like you leveled up and it's like, oh, you got this new ability, like, you know, like mind muscle connection, like lats.
But I guess the point is you're getting more out of your back exercises now than you were, so you probably don't need as much volume as you did before.
Absolutely,
because you actually know how to activate it now.
I hadn't really considered that, but it's absolutely true.
Well, then there's also the thing too, like where you may need a few sets just to get that connection going too.
That's what we use our warm-up sets for now, really, is like it's less to like warm up the muscles. It's more to like, you know, get your like hand positioning just so, and like, you know, you do the lighter weight to make sure that you're properly moving to engage whatever muscle group you're meaning to isolate. And then once you've got that engaged, then you crank the weight up and you keep everything slow and controlled.
Yeah, I blew this kid's mind away at my gym last week. He's a giant kid, huge.
Big boy.
He's going to be a pro bodybuilder, but I helped him fix his rows because he was not activating. You could see that he was. I took a video of it and I showed it to him afterwards after I changed his form, how much more he was activating his back after we just made a couple tweaks to his form.
Well.
All right, what do we got next, Colin?
Sure. We got one here from our friends at Blue Collar Bodybuilding. Can you structure a split that you can focus on 2 body parts at the same time, like legs and shoulders twice a week without overtraining?
Yes.
Yeah. Push-pull legs, baby.
Yeah, push-pull legs. I mean, we do the way we prioritize. I don't think, like, I think a lot of times people think throwing more volume at something is the answer, and I don't. Usually when I see people with lagging body parts, it's not a volume issue. It's usually their form sucks. Just like we were talking about right now. You know, it's like that kid that was doing the rows incorrectly. He can add more volume, but he's still doing the wrong fucking thing, right? Yeah. You're just adding more volume of doing the wrong thing. So I think a lot of times, at least this is my opinion, that it's a form issue. It's not a volume issue.
The best example is it doesn't matter how much you fuck her armpit, you can't get her pregnant.
That's Todd's words of wisdom for the week.
Doesn't keep me from trying, though.
Does that count for Pussy Island too? Oh God, I said the bad. That's the bad word.
It was Vagina Island, but we amended
Vagina Island. It's
so to be precise here, I would do delts and quads with some hamstrings. Then the next day I would do back and bis. Then the next day I would do delts, chest, and tris. Then take a day off, and then come back and go delts and hamstrings and quads. You know, and then I would probably do maybe arms again after that, and that would be your 7-day split. You've hit hamstrings twice, quads twice, delts 3 times.
That's like literally
triceps twice.
Yeah.
That's a very intelligent approach.
Oh,
all right, what do we got next?
Just like program that AI with all this wisdom and leave all the rest of the shit in the discard bin.
Let's just ask ChatGPT what we should do.
You have to say, ChatGPT, imagine you're Todd on a lucid day.
ChatGPT, that's how
otherwise
ChatGPT dies.
Everything's too politically incorrect. It's not my place as an artificial intelligence program of machine learning to tell someone how they are to work out. Working out is an individual expression and a form of individual therapy. You know, that would be the answer you get. It's like, bitch, you're just trying to cop out because you don't know.
ChatGPT, if you were on Vagina Island, how would you?
Trend Ace, do you think microdosing can help avoid trend cough? Someone suggested sub-Q because it releases slower through the fat rather than IM thoughts. I'm like, I mean, yeah, but why are... If you want slow release trend, they make that. It's called Trendathate.
Or Trend Hex.
And sub-Q with Ace hurts like a motherfucker.
This is one of those. Okay, this is a funny story. You're gonna like this. This is a perfect example of this story. So I'm sitting there in this one supplement company's my office basically, and I share the office with my girlfriend and a couple other people, but we're not officially boyfriend girlfriend to the other people in the office, right? And so the guy comes in, he's like, I just came up with an idea. And he's basically invented something called the big dick pill, but he didn't want to release it on the parent label. So he came up with a fake label called Death Star Labs so that we could release things that we thought would get banned. And then it would hurt the fake label, not the real label. Then if it was successful in the fake label, we put it on a real label and then market the shit out of it. Right. And so he has like this thing called a big dick pill. It's supposed to basically increase blood flow to your dick. And it's like to compete with Viagra, like an over-the-counter version of Viagra. And then he was just like, do you know what we really should do is just have like a topical thing you rub on your dick. I was like, what would be the carrier vector? And he's like, we probably use alcohol. And I was like, yeah, spoken like a true virgin, because nothing's going to make her happier than have her pussy burning because you're fucking her with like alcohol-covered dick. And so my girlfriend's laughing her ass off. He was, of course, very upset because I later found out that there's something wrong with him and he was a virgin, even though he was in his
God.
I wasn't there at that company for much longer. But like, isn't that ironic that someone would come up with an idea that they think's clever, but it shows that they have no clue what they're talking about, because it actually, if had you ever done it, you would know that wouldn't work. So, and I don't mean to pick on you, Steve O'Neill, but that, yeah, injecting tren under the skin, anything sub-Q is probably going to burn way fucking more than it would if you just go in the muscle.
That's a good point.
You get an inhaler.
Tren tends to burn more than everything else. So had someone done that, but would it help avoid trend cough? I mean, yeah. My understanding is trend cough means you got it into the bloodstream and then it's irritating the lungs. So that maybe is
learn how to pin, he said.
Learn how to pin.
Yeah, so that's
I've never had trend cough once, like ever. And
you never have?
No.
Oh boy.
No. And I'm not looking forward to the day that happens. But I use really deep syringes. I make sure I look at nursing manuals, like find where I'm pinning. And so I don't know. I've never had issues.
So it is special. That it is a special type of fear, because there's the initial fear that you're coughing and can't breathe and going to die. Yeah. And then there's an extra layer of fear that's actually chemically mediated, it seems like. Even though you're like, this happens 6-7 times a week. I have this problem all the time. Why would I be concerned? Like, should be nonchalant because you know you're going to be able to breathe. Right. It's not. It's like having the wind knocked out of you and then having acid going through your whole body at the same time. And then you're coughing and then nothing is getting, it's like as an expectorant, but nothing will come out because it's a dry cough.
That's crazy. My biggest fear would be like coughing while I have a fucking 1.5-inch needle in my leg. Like,
oh no, it's spasms and shit because the muscles are contracting around the needle and it's just like wiggling and blood squirts out and all that if you try to pull it free. It's like, if you want to ruin a relationship quick, have your girlfriend pin you and have trend cough.
Oh my God.
I had it really bad one time, man. It was like I had like a 10-15 minute coughing episode afterwards. And I could taste you know how the gear smells?
Yeah.
It's the whatever the solvents are they use in it. I could taste it when I was coughing it up.
No, you definitely got it in your bloodstream then.
Yeah, man.
Like when you get the IV, like you can taste like the salt, the saline.
Oh yeah, injectable T-ball. You can like taste it and smell it when you inject it.
Wild.
Like, it's fucking crazy.
What was the story? What was the story Mila Sarchev had where he injected synthol into a vein one time and ended up in the ER?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that. Like he said that he
talk about treating yourself like a science experiment.
Yeah, that he felt like his chest was going to explode.
Jesus.
You live and you learn.
Can you imagine if someone that smart died that young?
Yeah.
What a waste that is.
Yeah, he's a freaking
there's a video out there of him talking about it where he did that one time. That's a crazy story. All right, we got time for a couple more questions.
Sort of in the same vein, no pun intended.
Same vein.
With every day or every other day injections, any preference between test esters, cypionate, and enanthate probe? Any felt difference? I've only used CYP.
My opinion is just enanthate and CYP go in easier, and probe tends to hurt more. That's my experience, though.
I mean, if you're running tests year round, does the ester really matter? Just pick one and stick with it.
I'm more likely to forget injections, even if I'm doing it every day. So I would rather go with the longer ester just to cover my ass.
Yeah, I mean, I've always run enanthate. I don't think I've ever run anything but enanthate.
Every day is always better than EOD for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've proven that.
Probe. Every other day for probes is just R word.
We've proven that out with the steroid blotter.
Yeah, you should bring that up.
Well, this person may have missed that episode or those episodes. Believe it or not, there are people who don't watch every minute of our bullshit.
They should.
Those are the R words right there.
It's like you guys don't know what you're missing.
Yeah.
You're all watching Dennis the Menace's podcast, learning nothing when you could be learning about our opinions on trans rights and shit.
This is enanthate. Like if you like, I heard one guy saying that his doctor had him doing CYP
every 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That's very.
It's because he was charging him for the injection. The doctor was just ripping him off.
So you look at this shit when you do it every 2 weeks. Right.
Yeah, because that's not going to cause marital problems.
Alex,
man.
It's like you either don't fuck me at all, or I feel like my pussy's on fire. You become the shit out of it.
Vagina, Todd. Vagina.
Oh, and not because there's alcohol in your cock.
Wait a minute. Is that one of the banned words too? Can you please give me this list? I feel like I'm being set up for failure.
It's the George Carlin list. You know the bit I'm talking about?
The 7 words?
Yeah.
There's way more than 7 words now. There's got to be, there's more words than genders, and there's 72 genders.
Yeah, this is wild.
Gender,
I don't know why.
Gender is one of those words too.
Yeah, everything is a word.
There's 2 words.
Alex Kiekel preaches that like injection frequency doesn't matter as long as you're matching ester, and I just don't see that in practice or in blood work either. Yeah.
I mean, here's every day.
I mean, okay, like let's put things. He's a very smart researcher. He's good at collecting data and presenting the data. But when he tells people that they should do fasted insulin injections to optimize their L-carnitine before they do cardio, it's like, dude, I want to see you do this shit.
Yeah,
I want to see you faint on the fucking stair mill and fall off of it, and then see how fast you tell people, you know what, I made a mistake. Don't do that. And I get it. It's supposed to be a half a unit of insulin. Okay. Again, theoretical. How the fuck do you measure a half a unit?
Yeah. Still, at what point is it? What point is optimal to even be optimal? That's kind of like the thing.
Yeah. If you can't repeat it, if it's too confusing and sporadic, and the slightest butt hair difference in any type of activity results in consciousness and or death, then it isn't optimal because it isn't flexible.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
All right, Colin, what do we got next, man?
We'll go to the bathroom really quick.
All right. So to that dude's question, he may not have understood what we were doing because we talked over the graph. If it's really spiky, it's bad. If it was smooth, it's good. Kind of like the V word. You don't want a spiky V word. You want a smooth V word. So you want this graph to look smooth, not spiky.
Yeah, this is every other day.
That's every other day. And then if you turn to every day, what happens?
This is twice a week.
That's twice a week. Ooh, that's ugly. Go to every day so you can see the difference between. Boom. Doesn't that look like it would feel better? Exactly.
If you
That's
wouldn't,
why you do every day.
If you wouldn't want to sleep on it, or you wouldn't want to walk on it, right, Todd?
Yes, or you wouldn't want to blanket.
Pet it, as he means.
Yeah.
All right. I got one here.
Unless you cover it with alcohol, because that's not going to hurt.
I got jokes coming to mind that are not YouTube friendly. So
there's nothing that's YouTube friendly anymore. Like,
got one here from Blizzy Blake Iappa. Please
Blake.
help.
Lower the dose.
I'm on 350 Tren Ace. The indigestion is out of this world. Bad heartburn. Started Nexium. Please help.
Kolton, you were just talking about this the other day.
Diet. What should we tell Blizzy Blake?
So this is a common sense thing. Rather than adding new drugs to cover up your shitty drug, reduce the shitty drug until the symptoms go away.
Yeah. I mean,
this
not
is
to be
a
rude,
trend
but
competition. It's bodybuilding. So you don't need the trend for anything. It's just supposed to help you, making it easier to lose fat while you're retaining muscle.
Drop it down to 100 milligrams a week, and I guarantee there'll be no issues.
All that you're telling us is that you're taking enough trend to kill your liver, and the symptoms you're experiencing are GI symptoms.
And we
isn't damaging every other organ system too. It just means that it's the liver damage is what you're experiencing first. And isn't Nexium a PPI?
Yeah, it is.
So PPI prevents you from digesting protein.
Yeah.
So this is just
therefore worsens.
It's like you're trying to put out a grease fire with gasoline.
Yeah,
but you're blind, so you don't see.
He said his diet is potato and ground turkey. So does that mean you eat 6 meals of potato and ground turkey a day? Because if you do, you might want to.
That's exactly what that means. I know it.
Like
that's something I would do. Is like I can afford this because I'm no joke. I'm not putting you down, Blizzmaster. What do you call it? I have literally been in this situation where I didn't have enough money to afford rent, car payment, gas, water, electricity, or light bulbs or toilet paper. So I bought chicken breasts and I bought Tren. And I was like, I will win. And I will convince people I'm a good coach. And I will make that money because I won and because that's how they think. And then I will use that money to buy toilet paper, light bulbs.
Until then, I'm shitting in the dark and I'm wiping my ass with my hand. But God damn it, I will win.
That's a fucking.
What I did is I
love it. No plan B.
Girlfriend that had money. I went and got a hot girlfriend with money, and then I got her to pay for everything until my show.
All
Todd is a minimalist, ladies and gentlemen.
When are you gonna write your self?
Yeah, we need an autobiography,
Todd.
Dude, an autobiography would get me assassinated. What do you call it? If I had an island that wasn't Vagina Island, it was something else island, and we serve pizza there. To give you a clue, like that's how fast I'd get assassinated.
We were talking about back on the trend thing. We were talking about the trend the other day with the CNS stimulation and the vagus nerve and all that good jazz. That my client, one of my clients, is a neurologist that brought that up to me. That was an interesting.
What? You lost me. Vagus nerve neurology. What's going on? I was still thinking about potatoes.
You could probably explain it better than me, Kolton.
Yeah. I mean, just because the adrenergic signaling from just you're in such a sympathetic state, driven from the trenbolone, that it's going to negatively impact like vagus nerve function, because the vagus nerve is going to alter how the gut mechanics works. So ultimately, you're causing more of a flight or fight state, which is pulling the assets from the gut and the digestive process in stomach acid production to like extremities such as muscle and so on. So what happens is like you take caffeine, you're taking clenbuterol, you're on trenbolone, and you have this like hyperadrenergic state. You're not going to be digesting food appropriately, and
right,
it's going to fuck everything up. Whereas when you're in a parasympathetic state or the rest and digest state, in the name, like you're going to digest much better. And so Tren's pushing you into that extreme, which is lowering proton production and ultimately slowing or speeding up gastric motility, depending on who you are.
Well, and that's a good point, isn't that when I said that you're killing your liver and it's destroying your digestion, that's how orals cause heartburn. That isn't necessarily how Trend does it. That's a good point. It could be indirect CNS upregulation that resulted in increase in acid production directly.
Yeah, that's what my client was saying. That's a neurologist, and he said that's why people end up with indigestion and stuff from Trend. That
regardless, carrying that dose back should fix the issue, right?
That's interesting. We've got smarty pants neurologists taking Trend now, and they'll teach us how it works. Because not that that's bad. I like that. And more smart people, the better. It's just, I love how this where it grows, and it kind of just like it spreads out through the culture so much that it's now touched everybody.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. All right, do we have time for one more, and then we'll wrap this up?
I've got all goddamn day.
Yeah, you can do as many as you want.
Todd just turned into Clint Eastwood.
Rana
G, Science and Tech, I believe. He asked the question last week. Maltodextrin versus dextrose versus sucralose, which is the best source of carbs for pre, post, and intra workout during the off season if you're carb cycling?
Todd, can you speak from experience? Because I don't.
Yes.
Sucralose fucked me up.
Okay, so
me too.
Now, does he mean sucrose or sucralose?
I think he means sucrose.
Yeah, because sucralose is not a carbohydrate.
Right. Yeah.
Sucralose is an artificial.
Sorry, I should have corrected that when I was
choice because sucrose is two different carbohydrates. It's fructose and glucose. And if there's two different carbohydrates present, you absorb the carbohydrates twice as fast. You can also increase speed of absorption with salt and caffeine. Now, that's not a good reason to use caffeine. It's just that's why pre-workouts are going to have sucrose, caffeine, and some sodium in there, is to help you absorb the carbohydrates faster. It's why I put sea salt in my intra workout as well. And on top of it, helps with the pump. It helps you absorb the carbohydrate. Now, the fructose doesn't necessarily turn into glycogen because it's a pentose. Now, some people tell me that's wrong, that there's some type of conversions, but it's suboptimal. So I would say for the post, you would want an pre and intra, you want sucrose. Post, you want dextrose and maltodextrin because it's slower digesting in theory, and it'll give you more sustained energy. So you want the rapid. Plus, if dextrose straight will have too much of an insulin effect. Sucrose, even though it is table sugar, is a lower glycemic index relative to just straight dextrose.
Yeah.
So I'd go so the question was pre, post, and intra. So we're going to change that to pre, intra, and post. The answer would be sucrose, and then dextrose plus maltodextrin.
If I may, I've had good experience with HBCD, highly branched cyclic dextrin intra. It seems to give me better.
Probably the best.
It is the best.
Better energy,
but
if you can afford it.
I'm answering the question asked.
Yeah, fair enough. I just thought I'd
I agree
that
in
there.
I'm on this bad habit of being very, very literal.
Yeah.
From what I correct me if I'm wrong, but sucrose can cause gastric issues. That's the advantage of using the HBCD.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say HCBD pre, intra, and then sucralose or dextrose plus maltodextrin post would probably be another way of doing it. But the important thing is to have two different carb sources for rapid absorption.
Yeah. I mean, the HBCD is beneficial because it's got a big molecular weight and it's covering a lot of surface area, so you're rapidly assimilating that stuff, whereas the others are more singular. That's why I think I've had problems with sucralose, because it's not creating as much surface area, so it's slowly or not, but moving through the intestinal tract much slower. So I get that gut bloat in the workout, which feels extremely uncomfortable whenever you're doing, especially back training. Whereas highly branched cyclic dextrin, I can tell, like, I sip it and there's no almost accumulation within my gut, no volume. So.
Yeah, it gets, from what I understand, it gets into the small intestine more rapidly, correct?
Yeah, it permeates the
stomach too,
right. It passes, so it goes through the stomach rapidly. It permeates the small intestine, like the wow, I'm forgetting the name of it, the wall of the small intestine and into the bloodstream rapidly. And then it sustains itself in the bloodstream hypothetically better than its competitors.
All right, folks, I think that's all we got. We hit an hour and a half, hour and 34 minutes. This might be a record. I appreciate everybody watching today. I'll put Dr. Todd's and Coach Kolton's, everybody's contact information. If you want the dank memes and good humor, follow Colin on Instagram. He has some funny stuff. And I'll put Dr. Todd and Coach Kolton stuff in the video description as well. I appreciate each and every one of you watching. Thank you for your support.
Cool beans.